Peace out.
Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Today, folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's discuss the Peace Act of 2022, how two Democrats say that police reform is still not off the table. We'll have that conversation. Plus, how do we build a community to prevent suicide? We're going to be checking in with Dr. Sarah Williams to get her take on how the community family can create a safe space for us to have a very, very difficult conversation. Also, can we talk about improving the education and life of Black boys? I'm going to be checking in with the Kingmaker of Oakland, the CEO of Kingmaker of Oakland, to give us some insight about the work that they're doing to improve the lives of brothers all across this country. And later, speaking of Black men, how about a son is having a problem with his father? I'm talking about Romeo Miller, the son of Master P, and how their feud, as Jay-Z said, when a family feuds, no one wins. We're going to give you some of the details about this situation. So all of that, and of course, I got for you some trends. So stay with us. We got a lot to get to in today's edition of The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to get to, so first and foremost, let's talk about what's happening coming out of Washington, D.C., where police reform is still not off the table. Let's talk about the Peace Act of 2022, folks. This is a new piece of legislation that Democratic senator and the Democratic representative, has put together to try to get somewhere and get further along in dealing with the issue of police brutality, hoping to lead to police reform. Here's the report about this situation. Take a look at this, folks. This is from Representative Ro Khanna and Senator Alex Padilla of California. And this Peace Act, the Peace Act of 2022, is an acronym for police exercising absolute care with everyone. That's wonderful. It was introduced in both chambers of Congress by California lawmakers, U.S. Representative Ro Khanna and Senator Alex Padilla. The bill would change federal law to state that a law enforcement officer may only use deadly force or less lethal force unless it is necessary. If passed into law, it would only require federal law enforcement to adhere to the new standard. However, the bill would also encourage, quote unquote, states to adopt similar laws or policies. Now, this is the second time that the Peace Act has been introduced in Congress. Khanna first introduced the bill in 2019 with former U.S. Representative William Lacey Clay, who is a Democrat of Illinois, on the 5th anniversary of the 2014 fatal police shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. Now, take a look at this, folks. This is Representative Ro Khanna making this case about this peace law, the Peace Act, and hopefully it gets somewhere. Hopefully it gets somewhere. All right, let me check in with our culture crew member for today. My sister, she is an entrepreneur. She's an activist. She's always very vocal about the situation of police reform. Iman Heath is joining us today. Iman, good to talk to you as always. This Peace Act of 2022 is not quite like the George Floyd Justice for Policing Act. That's a different piece of legislation. But this is something in terms of focusing really on use of force, specifically on use of force. What's your take of this? I know this is something that's near and dear to your heart in terms of police brutality.
So the thing that screamed to me was the portion about it being for federal law, federal enforcement officers, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But the federal officers, in majority of the cases where Black men who are unarmed become victims of these police officers, they're not federal police. They're your local state police.
yeah.
So it's, I mean, cool. I hope this goes through. Awesome, wonderful. However, it's the state that needs to be addressed. Now, federal
Mm,
law, cool. That's awesome. But again, the state is what we need to focus in at.
mm. So this is. Do you think that it could lead to state, state and law enforcement official?
It could be encouraged, as they stated. It
Yeah,
could be something that may get the ball rolling or idea moving as to how to establish the same protocol with the state and local officials, but local officers. But Farajii, it's such a juggle with it. I couldn't tell you. The fact that we can't get something as simple as treat us fairly like everyone else for so long, trying to get anything with police reform or even a hate crime towards African Americans to try to even get past is an issue as well. So I don't know. I do not know. Do I have faith it'll happen? Ah, we've been here before. We've seen this before. So it's I don't know, but I'm now trying to think how can we as people who are being governed by these officers, how can we be the ones to get this idea moving or at least looked at as far as locally is how we get it done because we
because
can't wait.
right now it's the law ain't lawing.
The law ain't law in Faraji at all. And we keep seeing the same thing. We keep seeing the same problem. And on top of that, with this Peace Act, you're saying to hey, show everyone the same. You can't use lethal force unless it's absolutely necessary. So I guess the whole statement of when officers say they fear for their life, maybe that'll be something that you can no longer make a valid statement as to why you killed this unarmed man. Hopefully, this will lead to accountability for officers. That once they do, hopefully, we don't have these issues again, which I doubt. When an unarmed man is killed and you check his body and he doesn't have a weapon, you now automatically are being charged with at least murder
Yeah,
because again he was unarmed. But to keep saying I fear my life, we can't. You no, no, no. If
right,
you're scared
right,
of the
right. I understand and I agree with you, and I think that's one of the concerns. A lot of folks are checking in on the chat, so folks, make sure you post your comments in our chat as we're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook and Black Culture, BlackStarNetwork.com as well. But a lot of folks are saying the same thing. It's the wrong wording. Damon, you checked in, and you made that point. You say it may have the language, but not the enforcement where it needed to be at the local level. And so I agree with you on that, Damon, brother. You know, this may need some shaping up to get to it. But here's the problem. Here's what I think is the real issue. It's not necessarily about this piece of policy. It's the fact that you kind of have to take a backdoor approach to dealing with police use of force in order to quote unquote, I'm using the language that the lawmakers on this piece of policy is saying, in order to encourage states like you, I don't think folks understand, Iman, how much money is going to quote unquote public service in cities across this country. And a lot of the city's money, if you think of any of your major city, Baltimore, Los Angeles, New York, look at the budget of the city that you're in, folks, and see how much money is allocated for public service. In Baltimore, you're talking about 30 to 35% of the city's budget is going into public service. Now, of course, that includes fire, that includes medical attention, you know, the 911 services. But a lot of that money, at one point, I remember, I think it was last year or close to 2 years ago, Iman, and I'm sure these numbers may have changed. But in Baltimore, you were talking about $550 million going to Baltimore City Police Department, right? And a department that had a lot of problems and challenges.
The hell up.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of challenges.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? $550 million. And in some cases, some people would say it's $550 million to get your ass beat. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's where it is. And so the lobby, and I'm just going to use that term, whether it's from the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, or whether it's from some other space, the lobby for the police department, even on a state level, is so strong on a local level that it prevents residents and other folks to really try to control it. There's more money, and this is not crazy, because I looked at the number. There literally is more money going into public safety, i.e. police departments, than there is to education.
Which is the root to our problems.
Right. So we're looking at a situation here that you can't, like, when you're talking about law enforcement, when you're talking about putting some reins of control around how law enforcement officers do their job, that's not just a policy issue, that's a money issue as well. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, Iman, I want to take more of your analysis of this, and then we'll certainly get into our comments from our online culture crew. And folks, stay with us. We're just getting started here on The Culture as we talk about the Peace Act of 2022. What do you think of this piece of legislation that is slowly traveling from the House of Representatives to Senate to possibly becoming law? A piece of legislation that we may or may not need. Stay with us. Join us in the conversation. You're tuned into The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, welcome back. We've been talking about the Peace Act of 2022. This is a piece of legislation that was proposed by two California lawmakers in both the House of Representatives and the Senate to try to bring some reins in on how police do their job and, more importantly, the use of force in various situations that police encounter. Now, the Peace Act of 2022, this stands for an acronym for Police Exercising Absolute Care with Everyone. Again, it was introduced in the chamber by both California members of Congress, U.S. Representative Ro Khanna and Senator Alex Padilla. The bill would change federal law to state that a law enforcement officer may only use deadly force or less lethal force unless it is necessary. No, so we're just getting your take and hearing from Iman Heath, our culture crew member today, to understand if this is going to be one step closer to some level of police reform. Let's bring Iman back into the conversation. Iman, so people are saying this is not strong enough, that this is, in a sense, still leaves a lot of gaping holes in the discussion around police reform. I want to take a couple of comments from our online culture crew and share with folks what they're saying. Folks, let's hear from you. Truth is power. You say it won't really cover nothing because it doesn't protect on a state level. The wording is wrong. Everybody's getting back to this wording. This is the thing.
It's fluff. It's a fluff piece. The point that needs to be hit is accountability. If I'm not mistaken, now even locally for Baltimore City police officers, they have some wording where they can't you should only use deadly force if necessary. But the thing is, what is necessary to you? What is necessary to that specific officer? And we over and over and over again these unarmed Black men who are victims. So it's so many loopholes, and what's necessary is such a big umbrella. It needs to be accountability on the other end. If you do happen to use deadly force on an unarmed person, this is what's going to happen. Rather than, hey y'all, can y'all try not to kill them as much as y'all do? Because as he said in that piece, that Harvard did a study, and Black people are 3 times more likely to be killed by police officers. So we need accountability. Not they get a paid vacation, not that they need to keep all their benefits. No, it gotta be something that is going to shake your world up if you happen to kill somebody. It's that simple. But fearing your life, that ain't it.
That's nothing but the truth there. Ain't nothing but the truth there. Look, hey, truth is power, my guy. You also said something I think needs to be said. Farajii, but look at how many billions they pay to cover these officers and pay the families off, but never lose their pension or their status or rankings for a drive-by. So and I understand. Like at the end of the day, police, the officers, and we're seeing it more and more. I'm not going to just throw a blanket statement over, just a blanket over saying that, we're not seeing some level of accountability, but it takes much longer time. It takes greater effort, a lot of media attention, right? You got to damn near have Ben Crump on your case in order for there to be some level of accountability, right? So
it has to be trending hashtags, like
hashtag and trending and all of those things. Like it just takes a lot, and I can only imagine for the families that have experienced that. You really don't have a time to really grieve. You don't really have a time to process what just happened, especially if your loved one lost their life in a violent way, in an unjustified way. It's just madness, absolute madness. Truth is power, my God. Thank you so much. Janelle, you checked in. I think your point is absolutely valid. You said, according to our type of government, the federal government has limited power over all 50 states. That is the very definition of federalism. And this is the type of government that we do have, where states in some cases have more power, more say over what the federal government is saying, all right, y'all do what y'all do. We only provide recommendations. We can only encourage. But on some things, like a case like this, because a lot of money is coming from the state supports these police departments, then the states have the most say. And if you have a state that is Republican control, I'm going to just put it out there. Like if you got a lot of Republicans, if you got a lot of pro-police folks that are running your state, it's going to be very, very hard. If you got people that, political leaders who gain from the FOP, who get something from the police, you know what I'm saying? Monetarily or nothing, it's going to be hard.
Yeah,
it's going to be super hard.
Didn't want to negotiate about the George Floyd bill in the first place. So imagine the red state. It's going to be hard.
See, the George Floyd, right. Done. So that's the piece about the George Floyd bill was that piece that the big speed bump on stopping that bill was the whole piece around qualified immunity. You know, basically saying that the police officer will be held responsible. Like now you start to dip in truth is like truth is power said. You start to dip into their pension. You start to dip into, you know what I mean? And look, I think you should.
Yeah.
I think you should.
Yeah.
If you are a police officer, especially some of these officers, it's one thing to have an officer, a rookie cop, who makes a bad judgment call, a bad decision, and you end up killing somebody. It's another thing that you are an officer, you have a track record of abuse, of brutality. You know what I'm saying? And I think those have been a number of cases where some of these high-profile police brutality cases, you have officers like that who pulled the trigger, who was on the scene. Nah, bro. The only thing
lieutenants sergeants that come on the scene in these type of situations, and I've been able to witness, they some of them encourage the or increase the intensity of the situation. They want to cover up what happened, or they want to try to deviate from what happened, or you sure this is what happened, officer? Or you sure this is how it went? You have their higher ups who also don't want to take the backlash for the issue, so they may cover it up and say, well, this happened instead of this, or my officer has done some things in the street and they've walked this path and did this and did that. They also try to not hold their officer accountable for their mistake, their deadly, costly mistake. So it's Farajii,
it's something. Now look, Real Brooklyn brings up a great point that I think that we need to figure out, and I think it needs to be discussed. Real Brooklyn, you say, what's the definition of deadly force? Then you go on, sounds like the situation will dictate what constitutes being deadly force. I feel like that is the missing piece of this conversation. How does the state or how does the federal government define deadly force based upon the judgment call of an officer? Because an officer, you made this point earlier in your earlier remarks, Iman. What do most officers say when they get in these situations? I feared for my life. Therefore, I had to blow this guy's brains out. I had to beat him excessively. I had to do something very aggressively, right? You got a stick and a gun, and most of the time, especially in most of these high-profile cases, the person don't have literally anything in their hands. They don't even have a weapon. So you have a stick and a gun. You have tactical training on how to take people down, and you mean to tell me you fear for your life more than they fear for theirs? But I think
and Mace too.
And Mace, thank you.
And a taser.
You got 4 weapons.
It's barriers before you get to your gun. It's steps before you get to your gun.
But that's the question. What do you define as being deadly force? That is, you have to explicitly define that, because my version of deadly force, if, for example, in the case of Eric Garner in New York, where they put their arm, you can't hold somebody from behind with your forearm up against their neck, right? Because why?
Especially if they're handcuffs. Especially if they're already in handcuffs.
Especially if they're in handcuffs.
It needs to be detailed, especially about handcuffs. If a person is already technically detained and they are in handcuffs, then it shouldn't be any more, I would say, roughhousing. But again, like you said, you have to be specific. Once a person is in handcuffs, it's no damn excuse for choking or having a headlock or having your knee on their neck for X amount of time. Now that shouldn't even be questionable. After, for certain. Now, before trying to get someone into handcuffs, they always say you're resisting. That's a gray area. Let's get to the black and white. If they're in handcuffs, there's no reason for a taser or a gun or mace, a knee, an elbow, none of that. If they're in handcuffs, what the hell are they going to do in handcuffs? What are they reaching for in handcuffs?
That's the part. And that's the part. It's those type of details that need to be explained or defined because that's the part, right? And you brought up the tactic of putting your knee on somebody's neck, like we saw with Derek Chauvin and George Floyd situation.
That's deadly force.
That's deadly force.
Yeah, deadly force.
Look, deadly force is once a person says, I can't breathe. Once a person says, I'm dying. Once a person says, and I mean, nobody's going to scream that out just because you threw them up against the wall. But when you know without a shadow of doubt.
3 times of them saying that, come on, man. Come on.
We look, this ain't rocket science, man. Because, you know, my pops always told me in fighting, he said, son, you fight until the person is no longer a threat, right? So if I'm a police officer and the man is handcuffed, he's already down. What the hell am I going to do to try to put him in a pig? You know how to, put your arm, do something, put my gun to his head, put my knee on his neck. He already down. It's excessive.
You already have a big advantage.
That's required for the moment.
Mm-hmm. In most cases, there's always an officer that has a partner with them. In most cases,
and
so it's already 2-on-1, and he doesn't have access to use his hands. You're not wrestling a crocodile. You're not doing that.
Like, look, I know we got to take another pause, but we're gonna have to keep our eyes on this. We're gonna have to keep our eyes on this situation because the more and more I think about it, the more emotional I get. I'm not trying to be emotional about this, but it's hard to keep your composure when you know all of these things that police have at their disposal in a moment that they're on, when they arrive to a call, or when they apprehend someone. All of these things, whether it's the weapons on their personals, on their persons, whether they got their partners, whether there's their training, like all of these things. The person that is being apprehended 9 out of 10 times do not have weapons like that. They don't have that level of training, and they damn sure ain't in a group. It's 4 officers on 1 black man or 1 brown man. Or could be 1 white man. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's change. Let's take this conversation again. We're gonna keep our eyes on that situation, but we're gonna have to switch gears here, and I want to have a discussion about what's going on in the with the suicide prevention. The conversation around Twitch continues to happen, and we're going to be checking in with Dr. Sarah Williams to talk about how do we build a community where we can actually have a safe space to discuss very vulnerable and sometimes misunderstood ideas about depression and so much more that can prevent suicide of both black men and black women. We'll have that conversation. So stay with us. More discussion up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black
own media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, crew, let's continue the conversation about what's going on within the Black community as it relates to the issue of mental health and suicide. The conversation around the unfortunate death of DJ Stephen Twitch Boss continues to happen as there are a number of new discussions about the importance of checking in on folks and, more importantly, creating a space, a safe space where the discussion around suicide and depression can be had. And so today, we wanted to continue this conversation. We had, of course, a few discussions last week, but I wanted to continue to have this discussion today because my focus is on how do we build a community? How do we have family members who are equipped to handle this information and create a safe space so that way whoever is suffering from that level of depression, that level of loneliness, or just wanting to feel like they have to turn to suicide as the answer for their problems, they can have these discussions in a very, very safe place. So I want to bring Iman back into the discussion. And in a few moments, we should be joined by Dr. Sarah Williams around this. But this conversation about Twitch and depression and suicide, this has kind of just been reignited. And it's not a bad reason. I mean, it's unfortunate that Twitch died in the way he died and all of the details around his death. But I think that he doesn't die in vain because it now shines a spotlight, Iman, on the fact that there are a number of Black men and Black women, a number of people within the Black community who are really suffering in silence. And I think it's very important that we understand, like, how do we make a safe space? Like, we cannot just act. If somebody comes to us and they may say, look, I'm thinking about committing suicide. They may have suicidal tendencies or thoughts, or they may discuss suicide ideation, but that may not even happen. And and it's important that we figure out how do we have a safe space for these thoughts to come out, and a person is not judged, a person is not ostracized, a person is not put to the side. What's your take on this, Iman?
Well, October 18th of this year, my cousin committed suicide. And like,
let me and my condolences. Our condolences. And
don't know why. And it's like trying to understand or try to be in that person's shoes, or to try to just think, how could this have been prevented, or how could this be stopped? It's hard to do when that person doesn't show signs, or that person wears that happy and bright smile, or that person's conversation doesn't change or they don't ask for help. It's hard to try to pinpoint or control when you're not let in that way. So that's the difficult part, being on the other side of suicide, is like, how could it be done? But even if you do ask the person, you know, are you okay? What's wrong? Anything going on? We so used to saying everything's fine, I'm okay, I'm great. And that's not the case. I think another thing that we have to work on as far as Black people is being okay with being vulnerable. Even with your family, mom, dad, sister, cousin, anybody. We need to start being okay with being vulnerable. It's okay to express yourself. It's okay to express your feelings in a healthy way. It's okay to be sad sometimes. It's okay to not be okay sometimes. And I think we have to understand and prioritize our mental health much more, because we're losing a lot of us without it looking like, what does depression or suicide look like? A lot of people can cover it up. It's easy to cover it up. So I'm trying to figure it out myself, Farajii, as how can we build a safe haven for people to feel okay enough to express themselves when those emotions get that heavy.
Yeah. And Corinna and other culture crew members are saying their condolences to you, Iman, in the chat. And you know, it's a really, really tough pill to swallow on this situation. Corinna, you brought up something that I think is important as we have this conversation. You say we need to resume actual conversations with people. We have lost the sense of genuine human interaction with heavy reliance on texting and the curated space of social media.
Yep. Just because they repost a meme on Instagram or repost a reel on Instagram that may be funny or something, they may be hiding something. Or repost one of those Justin LA Boy memes, and y'all know what I'm talking about. If they repost something like that, sometimes if it becomes consistent, try to read between the lines. If they post things like you know, you got to look out for the strong people because they get weak sometimes too. Even though people may say they're not posting it because they don't feel that way, just double check. It doesn't hurt to double check. Hey, you okay? Hey, you good? I noticed some of the content you've been reposting or putting up on your Instagram or your captions. Like, pay attention to those things. They matter. People put on the front very often, but it may not be the case.
Right.
So read between those lines sometimes.
I had a conversation with a doctor on another show earlier this week, Iman, where the doctor, she's a psychologist, and she made a point that resonated so deeply with me. She said that people who commit suicide, she said most of the time, and she's had clients and patients who have experienced this, she said the 24 hours before they make that decision or before they decide to do it, they are their happiest. She said that is a huge symptom, that 24 hours before they actually do it, they are happiest. And I asked her, I said, Doc, well, why is that? And she said, because they know that the end is coming and that they have made a decision. And the reason that was brought up is because, you know, I saw the viral video of Twitch. And people like, oh, this was him 24 hours before.
Yeah, his TikTok dance. Yeah, with his wife and everything.
Right. And so when she said that, I was blown away. Iman, I was blown away because I was thinking to myself, so this man dancing with his family, enjoying himself, had in his mind that he knew he was going to commit suicide 24 hours later, or however long later. But he already had in his mind that, you know what, the end is coming. And I'm happy to know that the end is coming. I'm like, and she said, that's how depression can make a person feel. That they go up. She said they will experience extreme happiness. And I was like blown away. I've never heard that, but she said that's common. She had a patient for her. She said one of her patients said that he was happy. He had attempted suicide a few times, Didn't work, obviously, but she was able to intercept, get him the services and the care that he needed. And he told her, he said, had you not come into my life the time that you did, or you did not get, keep me in a hospital, keep me on suicide watch. He said, if you would have released me that day, I was going to try it again. And he said, I was sure that I was going to be successful. Blew me away.
That's yeah, because you would think that something happened to lead up to it, like the climax of a story or something. Some details or some event happened for you to get to that point. But to feel relief or to be happy, I mean, and when she says it, when the way she explained it, it makes sense. Like, I know this will finally be over. I don't have to deal with this no more. I'm happy. I'm okay. I'm good. I can see that, but it's what the hell happens? Like, what causes this so much? And depression, a lot of us don't understand, is more than just feelings. It's literally like a chemical in your brain when it comes to depression. It's not, for some people, it's not as simple as just a feeling. I'm sad or I'm upset. I have no motivation. It's literally your brain fighting itself at times for you to tell yourself, feel better. But there's literally an imbalance of hormones, all kinds of stuff going on in your brain that affects you a lot. And we don't consider that.
Absolutely. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, we'll have more conversation, more discussion about mental health, about suicide. How do we create a community around this suicide prevention? Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Folks, welcome back to the show.
On the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, we have been having a conversation talking about Twitch and of course talking about suicide, but we're talking more specifically about how to build a community where suicide prevention can happen. We are so happy to be joined by a psychotherapist to give us some more insight and analysis about the situation and offer some guidance on how we can have just conversations in a safe space that will prevent suicides from happening. So we're happy to have Dr. Sarah Williams joining us here on The Culture. And of course, we also have our Culture crew member, Iman Heath. But Dr. Sarah Williams, Dr. Williams, I'm going to start with you, Doc. And first, let me share what some of the data that we found around this issue. Take a look at this, folks. This is coming from this is coming from some data about Black men in suicide, and it speaks exactly to where we are right now, Doc. This is coming out of according to a 2021 study from the journal JAMA. Black males reportedly had a nearly 80% increase in suicide attempts, the highest of any race in the study. Even more disconcerting is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's report on suicide in 2021. It noted a jump in Black suicides, but some experts charged that even this increase badly undercounted the actual increase. Now, in the wake of the suicide of Twitch, a litany of reasons was offered as to why Black killed themselves. The most common reasons cited are that Blacks, particularly younger Black males, are driven to despair by the endless procession of racist abuse, violence, stress, and the intense racial discrimination, slights, insults, and exclusion they suffer. They are less likely to seek or even have access to mental health care, counseling, and treatment for the myriad mental and physical challenges and stresses they are bombarded with. Wow.
Unfortunately, that is the state of where we are. It is pervasive. It is systemic. It is distressing. And for especially us Black mothers, we are concerned ourselves about the societal issues that happen, but what is happening internally with our Black males. And I am devoted to helping bring awareness to this issue and to offer my expertise in platforms such as this. So thank you for this opportunity because this dialogue needs to be ongoing.
Absolutely, Doc. Doc, I wanted to get right to the heart of the matter. We're not having the conversations about suicide, depression, because I don't think that it's not because we don't care. My Culture crew member, Iman, she just shared the very personal story of how her family member, a Black man in her family, recently committed suicide it happened in October of this year. So it's not that we don't care. I think it's that we don't know how to have the conversation to create a safe space where a Black man, particularly, or just any Black man, can feel vulnerable to open himself up to the situation and say, look, I'm not feeling good. I'm having these thoughts. I feel like things are crashing down around me. I feel like the best way I can deal with this issue is to take myself out. So am I wrong in thinking that it's not that we don't care, it's just that we don't know how to care?
You're absolutely right. We are a loving and caring people by nature, and we are at the extent of our resources. Because there are not very many of us that are clinicians of color and leaders in our community that can offer that support and education. As you know, there's a lack of cultural competence within the healthcare system overall, and mental health is not any different, because the training of clinicians oftentimes don't have the exact expertise to identify those issues that Black males may present. So for instance, for me, I specialize in working with individuals that often have developmental disorders. Black males are often either misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed. So if someone is, say, in the classroom and a Black male is displaying certain types of behaviors, the teacher, the classroom teacher or the school counselor will look at that behavior and not focus on the possibility of what is the underlying factors that contribute to that behavior. And so that kind of flows into our communities, because the parents are called in and they just are assuming that this individual doesn't want to participate in class or won't pay attention, won't do their work. Oftentimes when I receive a referral, the child or the young adult or the adolescent has a diagnosis of oppositional defiant disorder. It is astounding to see how many cases I see of oppositional defiant disorder. This is an 8-year-old. Nobody looked at, is there a history of trauma? Are there other explanations? Prenatal care. Did the mother get prenatal care? Developmental disorders like autism, ADHD. Was there a use of alcohol or drugs while the mom was expecting? There are so many explanations for behavior. But anyway, speaking to the suicide, we're talking the stats actually, the individuals that succeeded. We're not even looking at the stats of individuals that attempt suicide.
Great point.
So I have individuals that come in my office that they have had multiple suicide attempts. These are our Black males. Look at the age range, somewhere around 12 to 17. Developmentally, that's where we're forming our identity. That's when we start learning who we are and how we perceive ourselves. And what is society telling our Black males? What messages are they getting of who they are? Is it positive or is it negative?
And so how do we, as community members, as family, how do we either resist some of those negative messages and create a safe space? Like, what recommendations would you offer for that?
I think we need to have regular reset meetings within the family. Like, we get together and we have Sunday dinner. We spend time talking, paying attention. Don't always take someone's word for how they feel. You can ask someone, how are you today? And they can say, fine, I'm good, everything's great. And you are observing different. Don't be shy about approaching the individual directly and saying, I notice you don't seem like yourself. I'm not really seeing the person that I used to see. Is there something going on internally? How can I help? Instead of eliciting a question with a one-word answer, ask things like, how are you sleeping these days? How is life treating you? Do you feel hopeful? I mean, it's okay for us to say that. Allow our conversations to support vulnerability. That this dialogue about being strong and resilient and just dealing with it, we got to get rid of all that, because where we are in the place, we are in desperate times, and that requires us to pay close attention.
So when we have those dialogues about our strength and our resilience, we actually are setting walls up for our vulnerability we're setting walls up for us to even have like communication. Because let me tell you, I have never came across not one black man, Doc, that has ever said, I'm a weak black man, who has admitted to me that he's weak. No black man. Now, I know that I feel times of, there have been times in my life when I felt like I'm not at my best. I feel weak. But I know as a black man to another black man, unless we're like super close, most brothers aren't talking saying, hey, man, you talk to a black man, a brother that you don't see that often. How's your day going? How's you doing? Look, I'm really, really feeling down. I'm feeling weak. I'm feeling out of it. Brothers just aren't talking like that to each other.
Yes. Conditioned and socialized to be strong and have a resilient exterior, and you can be breaking inside. That is unfair, and it is a cultural abuse, and it is neglectful. And the more we allow our young black males to cry and feel sensitive and have a soft place to land, I think that is one of the greatest prevention techniques, because as we know, suicide is 100% preventable. That is the one thing we can control, and it's within our reach. But we have to have that conversation in a way that there's no judgment. Suspend judgment. It's okay to be a spiritual praying person. I invite that. I encourage individuals that are religious or they have a spiritual background to tap into that. But this mindset of being strong, or I'm too blessed to be stressed, and all these, that we grew up with that tell us that we're not supposed to feel, that manifests a historical, pervasive idea that we are not human, that we are subhuman, that we're animals, we're atypical, and we're not supposed to feel anything.
Doc, you dropped the mic on us. I gotta say it. I mean, like, with all due respect, like, I'm serious, because it is simple things that we can do, simple ideas, simple recommendations that I know that we can put in place to stop this from being an epidemic. But when you look at those numbers and saying that there was an 80, and I'm saying 80, folks, an 80% increase in suicides among black men. And going back to your original point, Doc, you said that's those who have been able to do it. We're not even talking about the numbers of folks who have attempted. So when we're talking about these things, something has to change in the black community. And I get it, and I totally understand. Like, part of me is like, I get it. The stress of being black in America is very real. When you're talking about dealing with racism, sexism, when you're talking about dealing with misogyny, when you're talking about all of those things that, I mean, it's very real. But we can't keep going like this as a people in this country, where we're literally killing ourselves, not with the gun, but with the attitudes, with the judgments, with the point that you made, always promoting to be strong and not allowing us to be human. And it breaks my heart to see this. It just breaks my heart. Doc, is there any particular resource that you can offer up? I mean, we have the final few seconds, but is there a particular website that people can learn more about how they can become more equipped and prepared to have this sensitive conversation with family and friends?
Absolutely. I am providing a free self-help mini sessions, master classes, because I know sometimes scheduling therapy can be scary. So you can reach me on Instagram at I am Dr. Sarah Williams. It's really easy. Most people have Instagram, and you can go there and you can just sign up, and you will get an opportunity to have a free mini session to kind of get the dialogue started. Because you, like you said, these conversations it's more than necessary at this point. My website is drsarahw.org. And I have all my information there. If you or someone you know is in need, please take that step. This is a critical time. This is an epidemic. We are past the point of being complacent and passive about this issue.
Absolutely. Dr. Sarah Williams, we appreciate you. And I don't know, Keenan and Ariel, if we could pull up her website very, very quickly just to show people. That's the website, folks. Dr. Sarah Williams, licensed psychotherapist, grief, trauma, and relationship coach. You can get more information, bring people to qualified, competent professionals. If you feel like you don't know how to handle a situation, then get professional help. I'm a huge advocate of letting the professionals do what the professionals do. So I appreciate your time and your insight with us today. Thank you so much, Dr. Williams. We truly appreciate you.
Thank you so much, and blessings. Have a great evening.
Have a great evening. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's continue to talk about Black men, but let's talk about it in the space of education and life. I check in with the CEO of Kingmakers of Oakland. Let's stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Folks, we wanted to continue the conversation talking about young Black men. And again, we can't thank Dr. Sarah Williams enough for just providing in just that few moments, a little bit of insight, that just the nuggets of wisdom that we needed to give us some hope. And the fact that she made the point that suicides can be prevented. It is not a hopeless journey. It's something I think that we can all hold on to. So again, folks, please take advantage of the opportunity, the resource that she offers, and the work that she does. But we thank her for her time, and certainly we'll be bringing her back on to talk about not just suicide, but talk about grief and trauma as well. But as we have that conversation, I'm so happy to have my next guest, who is a man who is doing some fantastic work in the area of African-American male achievement and improvement. He runs an organization called Kingmaker of Oakland. He serves as the CEO. And we want to welcome Mr. Chris Chapman to the culture here on the Black Star Network to talk about how to improve the educational and life choices of young Black men so that way they can become more productive. Chris, thank you so much. And we also want to bring back into the conversation our culture crew member, Iman Heath. Man, oh man, Chris, you were a part of that. You had a chance to really hear what the doc had to say. So this is a real blessing that we can talk about suicide prevention in one case, but then we're talking about something a little bit in a positive of improving the life and education of young Black males. Talk to us about Kingmaker of Oakland, brother.
Right on, Tom. First and foremost, I give thanks for the opportunity to shine light on this subject, and was equally just moved to listen to Dr. Sarah Williams. Not surprising in the spirit of, we send our kings to a public school system where they learn not who they are and whose they are. And so those issues of what we see in television, what's perpetuated in structural racism, it makes it very difficult for a true king to take his crown out his pocket and rock it with a strong sense of self-efficacy, belonging, and collective responsibility, of which our work at the core is improving educational and life outcomes of Black boys from preschool through 12th grade, while working with our kings and folks in the community to redesign systems, structures, conditions, and the culture that lead to improved educational life outcomes of Black boys. Keyword being on culture. Right now, the present culture is toxic for our young, our kings, our culture, but that is by design. And so, yeah, just thank you for the opportunity, and can talk much more complex and comprehensively around this school to prison pipeline and what we're doing around centering Black boys while serving all students, and being intentional and apologetic around really lifting up the power and the audacious stories of the influence throughout the diaspora on math, science, language arts, and social studies that really many of us don't come into learning until we take our first Black Studies class in college. And so we're looking to do that from an asset-based perspective, centering Black boys as we redesign school systems across this country.
Hey, Chris, and then Iman, I'm gonna pose this question. Then Iman, I want you to jump into this conversation as well with your questions. But Chris, when we look at the work that you do, and you're not alone, right? You are a part of a larger network of Black men and women.
That's right.
Who are taking time to invest in Black boys in this, in a lot of different ways. But I'm wondering, Chris, you've been doing this a long time, brother. Mm-hmm. In order for us to deprogram ourselves from very antiquated, destructive beliefs and values, it seems like that we make progress and then we get pushed back. We make some progress and then we get pushed back, right? What would you say is the key source of that? Would you say it's the family? Would you say it's social media and media, traditional media? Like what is there one particular area that we can key in on to say, you know what, let this be the target for the next year, and then we move on to something else? Because it seems like these conversations about Black boys and Black girls can be all over the place. People say, oh, it's the parents' fault. Oh, it's the household. Oh, it's the neighborhood. Oh, it's racism and white supremacy. And so I'm just trying to figure out, like, how do we kind of bring some level of manageability and control so that way we're not all over the place and we can focus our attention to make the real gains that we say we want?
Right on. I appreciate the question. And it speaks to the complexity of structural racism, Eurocentricity, and whiteness, that this culture and the country that we live in has fully embedded. And so for me, you always have to start with self. So to the degree of which you know who and whose you are, and that you have a feeling of self-efficacy, a understanding of cultural identity, and the responsibility, not from a Eurocentric, individualistic value system, right? Part of the upsetting the setup is knowing that in this country, we are weighting the wrong things. And that is the value of individuality in our society. Within the diaspora, it's Ubuntu. I am because we are because I am. May the circle be unbroken. So when that brother is hurt, I'm hurt. When that sister is hurt, I'm hurt. If she ain't eating, I ain't eating. And so to the degree of which we begin to understand the cultural legacy that I would have to acknowledge our forefathers and foremothers actually dealt with far more and far less. So in understanding your history, right, that we've always been under assault within the context of the American culture and society, but understanding that, then you can understand the dynamics and strategy of a fugitive pedagogy, right? That we may understand the system and structure that we've been born into, but what is our do different, right? You gotta know knowledge, you gotta have knowledge of self. You have to unlock the historical context of the contributions throughout the diaspora. In knowing that, then you could begin to at least walk with your head up, right? And understanding that that it is by design that we don't know who and whose we are in this public school system, right? That really and that is an issue of privileging the privilege and wondering why our young kings aren't sitting still in this antiquated public school system where they're learning the stories and the legacy of white leaders, right? Typically, the Black leaders that we get introduced, although awesome and credible, it's the same 1 to 5, right? You're not learning the local history of folks throughout the diaspora, the folks that didn't make the history books that had significant impact in math, science, language arts, and social studies, beyond even the Americas, but throughout the diaspora. So I say this to say the first step, though, is not acknowledging and understanding who and whose you are. And you can accelerate that when you're in right relationship. That this idea of I'm at my best when I'm in right relationship with my brother and sister. So, my ability to accelerate knowing who and whose I am is being, who's on my right, who's on my left, who's in the front, who's in the back. And so I just share that to say, although we have a very complex strategy, it first starts with understanding who and whose you are, because then you could begin to either understand what you must unlearn and heal, and then begin to learn forward. And so, really just that, understanding who and whose you are, and then beginning to understand the historical context that we didn't get here by mistake. Actually, this is the manifestation of things that have been happening for hundreds of years. And there are things that you can do from an entrepreneurial, economic standpoint, from an educational standpoint, from a built environment standpoint, that you can't do in isolation, that we have to work together collectively to ensure that many more of us are taking the crown at their pocket and rocking it.
Hey, Chris and Iman, I want you to pose your questions, but let me just say, that's it, bro. Like there's no other conversation until we get to the very premise of understanding who and whose you are. That's that. Education, economics, business, politics, none of that matters until you understand who you are and whose you are. All right, Iman, I'm gonna shut up because Chris getting me excited about life right now.
I agree. That is a part of we as a culture behave the way we do. But when it comes to these young men that you interact with, besides, maybe not knowing exactly who they are, where they come from, but other than that, what is their number one barrier from speaking with them that they have as far as education? Are they maybe not eating enough at home? Is mom and dad isn't there, grandma isn't there? Like, what has been the number one reason when interacting with them personally that you come across as being the issue as far as their education?
Dope question, Queen, on multiple levels. and we, part of entering into schools and school communities across the country, the one thing that we don't let dictate the direction we move are the traditional quantitative data and or the traditional adult figureheads that have positional authority that are, many of us are dependent upon them to share what's wrong with Black boys. We actually go to the source and we teach our kings, nothing about me without me. You're either on the menu or you're deciding what's going to be on the menu. So let me start by first saying we interview our kings from kindergarten to 12th grade. And we just spend the first time, and it's not OGs like myself. We get younger cats, 16 to 24, little, younger brothers are going to open up to kind of that next tier a little bit more so than the older cats. But really what they share is, people are not engaging me. So they see me as wrong, bad. Before I've even opened my mouth, the adults deal with me as if I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I can't engage, I've done something wrong, I've done harm. So the general thing is adults, Black, white, male, female, or otherwise across this country, urban, suburban, rural, private school, public school, charter school, there is no distinction that Black boys are not being engaged from an asset base, that I see you as a king, that they are beautiful, brilliant, and extraordinary and possess innate greatness. Now, in our engagement, it's one thing to engage, but are we engaging from that implicit mindset that from the 95% of our decision making is unconscious? That's the deep stuff. You talk about how fully baked white supremacy is in all of us, and why we have to unlearn how we say hello to a king. And the more melanin you have, the harsher the response. Typically, the response is one of negative, of doubt, of question. Whereas if you're not a Black boy, oh, hey, how you doing? Good day. Whereas the king, you crossing the street, you're covering your purse. And this goes on. And so I just have to say the number one thing is, how are we engaging it with light and love our young kings? That to me, if kings meet you and feel your energy and your chakras open, your vibration is positive, you're engaging them with a smile, that will de-escalate 99% of most of whatever the trauma or situation. They're going to greet you right back with a smile. You greet a king by saying, "What's up, king? Excuse me, I called you a king." Oh, wow.
Right,
yeah.
right.
I mean, but television, corporate hip hop, school has fully baked this negative deficit asset. It's impacted even how we engage other brothers and sisters, and not aware of the unconscious piece. And so I just say this to say the number one thing is engaging. And then from that is encouraging. Whatever you want to be, come with me, whatever you want to be. We want to encourage our kings. All right, king, if you want to be a professional football player, cool. We always in school, oh, you can't do this. Only one person. No, who am I to hate and tell anybody what you can't be? But what I can say, all right, cool. You want to have some options. If you want to do that, let's look at the data. 1% of all folks may make it, the NBA. So what could you, maybe you're an owner, maybe you're an attorney, maybe you're working the production. So it's working with kings from an asset-based perspective that, one, they're beautiful, brilliant, and possess innate greatness. Then it's encouraging. All right, man, come on. We're going to encourage. If you need some help, mental health, let's get you some help. If you need some remediation in your school, let's get you some, whatever it is, nothing's an excuse from our standpoint to help them actualize it's all within you. It is all within you. I'm not actually trying to do anything different than help create the condition, develop the system and structure, and ultimately the culture of which, with those young kings, when they look in the mirror, they know they are beautiful, brilliant, and possessing a greatness. And in part of that journey, this idea of collective responsibility, man, don't go get all what you got and leave the hood. No, go do what you got to do with the intent on coming back and giving back. That is the true manifestation of a king. And so just, a couple of things, which we can go into much more complexities of the drivers of what we address, kind of these ecosystems, because they are very complex. But at the end of the day, it's engaging Black boys. I see you, right? And I'm going to be with you, conditioning yourself to love unconditionally. And this society, man, we are triggered by Black boys. We are triggered by.
Ooh, come on, hey Chris, you're speaking to our souls right now, bro.
Especially but depending on your energy when you approach these young Black men. You know, I hear stories all day about women at the gas station, how they're disrespected, or squeegee boys here in Baltimore, they disrespect them. Honestly, from my experience, I've never had those type of experiences. And it really depends on how you approach them. When you walk to the gas station store, if they say hi, just say hello.
That's right.
You don't have to look at them like they're a criminal or they're a creep, they're trying to get you. You have to stop looking at them as predators for some reason.
That's right.
I don't know why we look at young Black men as predators.
Well, I mean, but see, on the flip side of that, young Black men have done some real harm and damage. For example, I know that Nira has shared with me, Chris, my wife, she shared with me where she has, like, with the squeegee boy situation, they surround the car. They get very, and you know, they kind of like get very close to the car. And I mean, if you have women who have experienced sexual assault, who have experienced violations of their space, that just in that simple body movement can be a very triggering thing. It can create panic. And so just as much as, and I'm feeling you, Mon, that, you know, every young Black male is not a criminal, is not a threat. But at the same time, young Black males got to understand that Black women in particular have been damaged by Black men. And so they have to, like, as a Black man, I got to be very mindful and careful that when I'm talking to a woman, that I'm not up in her face. I'm not, you know, giving her any signs that I'm a threat or I'm trying to trigger something, because it's on both sides. And I think, Chris, you and I can both, and Iman, we can all agree, we aren't fully healed from the trauma and from the pain. And I think what you're doing, the great work you're doing, Chris, is like, you got to be healed.
That's right.
And that's the emphasis. Even when talking with Dr. Williams, like, we're not healed, man. Like, our community is so broken and dysfunctional in so many ways. There's some growth, there's some love, there's certainly some great things, but man, we're not healed, man. And our culture doesn't always lend itself to fully being healed. And I think, Chris, that's the part about you working with these young Black boys. It's like, yo, I'm gonna change the culture, not from the adult side, but we're gonna change it from the very beginning. Chris, you got the last few moments, bro.
I just give thanks for the love and light. You all speaking truth into something that are we're reacting to the system we've been born and raised in. And so right. I just also, with grace, when we see them, the brothers, that was learned, you know, that is displaced trauma. And so where, to the degree of which we can have another group of brothers, greet those brothers, to engage with love and light, to you know, begin to allow them to see how, you know, what they're feeling is real, what they may be doing, maybe a mode of whatever, of self-sufficiency, but they got to understand that that's part of this damn system, right? And so I think, as much as we all got to be aware, but if we got to look to each other. The Calvary ain't coming to save nobody.
Come on, brother.
You know, sudden influx of resource. It's resource. We have to look to each other. And one of the things in the last conversation, really, even this idea of what manhood is all about, it is the balance of masculine and feminine energy. Of which, no, a true king is in tune with his feelings. And if they identify, you know, I mean, there's and so with all that to say, like, having the audacity to engage those kings at the gas station, sometimes that is a life and death situation. But how are we in enough relationship with someone that knows, you know what, I mean, that's little John. Man, I know his auntie. Let's go call his auntie. Hey, we're going to show up at that gas station. Like, I feel we are afraid of our young people. And the folks have said this, right? When the young people are not engaged by the village, the young people will burn the village down just to give them warmth. And that is what we're experiencing. And that it's not, I don't want to blame our young people for something we did as elders. We did not do, we did not connect. And so my piece is not a blame. If anything, the blame is the system. How do we get in right relationship with the brothers and sisters that can get eye level with, not to say that I can, I'm trying to build a multiracial, intergenerational, cross-functional coalition that we are positioned, right, to love unconditionally and to just change what's going on. And I have faith, I look to our history and her story, that we are the change if we get in right relationship, and we're trying to unlearn some of these things and relearn. So I'm just honored to be in relationship with you all. Thank you all for reaching out to the cool community. And I just wish you all happy holidays.
Hey, Chris, real quick, how can people get more information about Kingmaker of Oakland, the great work y'all doing?
Yeah, you can check us out at kingmakersofoakland.org, our website. We have Twitter, Kingmakers O, IG, Kingmakers of Oakland, Facebook, and just get involved, y'all. We are an intermediary as well. Yeah, there's direct service work we do, but we do not do this work in isolation. And so if you have skill sets or interests or support, reach out. And inshallah, we will engage y'all. We're on an intercontinental paper route, y'all, really trying to carry that Black Star movement and align in service of the next generation. So
Absolutely.
Reach out. We'd love to build.
Absolutely. My brother, Chris Chapman. Hey, Chris, this will not be the last time you are on this platform, this show.
Come on. I'm ready.
I'm saying this will not be the last time, but I want to thank you on behalf of the team here. I want to thank you just for the great work on the behalf of the online community, culture community that we have here, because this is absolutely needed. I'm going to follow you, and let's continue to stay in touch, brother. But trust and believe, we thank you for this work. And it's so, so vitally important to have young brothers like yourself and others.
That's right.
Brothers and sisters that's going to be involved in investing in Black boys and Black girls the way y'all involved with it, in the way y'all involved with the culture. So thank you. I truly appreciate you, Chris. Thank you, bro.
Thank you, King. Thank you, Queen. Y'all have happy holidays.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about, man, this thing just continues to go on. Let's talk about Romeo Miller and his father, Master P, and how this is a father-son relationship that may not need to have gotten into the media, but we'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, I got something for Trends Post and Doing the Most. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
Folks, let's continue the conversation talking about Black men. Let's bring Iman in here. Iman, it's just so happy that we have to have a show talking about Black men. We talk about brothers, so happy. But you know what, though? It's all good because you have. I think when you're around brothers, I feel like you are so yourself, Iman. Iman, one of them type of sisters, y'all. She get around black men, she just get reinvigorated. She like, let's go, and she is so supportive. I'm telling you, like when I've worked with Iman, she is so supportive to make sure that black men and black boys win. I mean, she is like our number one cheerleader. I'm telling you, she's the number one. And she will always keep it real. Keep it 100.
At all times.
Keep it 100. Like, hey, look, you keep it 100. Like, yo, I love my brothers, but y'all need to work with yourself.
For real.
Hey, look, for real. All right, so let's talk about this situation. This situation between Romeo and his dad, Master P. This is a situation that I came across during the weekend. It was like Sunday. He dropped something on Instagram where he talked pretty much. I mean, he really put his father on blast, talking about how his father just is all about himself. That what we see of Master P of being this very genuine and caring man is just an image. It's just a part of the brand. Yeah. But that his mother, and this is what Romeo said in the IG message. He said, "Mom was right about you." He said, "Mom was right about you. All you care about is your image, your brand, and what's good for you." And I mean, I hope and pray that never comes out. Those words never come out the mouth of my son. Oh my gosh. I hope and pray it never happens like that. But this is a very serious issue. It made me think about a couple of other high-profile father-son relationships, Iman. One is, I remember when Kirk Franklin had that falling out with his son. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think people's problem with that was what Kirk Franklin said rather than the relationship.
Right. There was some stuff that his, he really went off on the son, basically saying, "I'll whip your ass and I'll do all of this stuff." And he talking, I mean, real rough to his son. That situation. I mean, but we hear about this. But let me just bring folks up to speed. Here we go. And then, Iman, I'd love to get your take on it. Here's what happened, folks, that Romeo Miller, this is according to a report coming out of XXL, Romeo Miller is claiming he is currently broke, BROKE, and that all of his money from his music career, y'all remember Romeo, Lil Romeo, that was his rap name, all his money from his music career was used to pay his father, Master P's taxes. The No Limit Records founder has now responded. On Sunday, Romeo, who now goes by his government name, Romeo Miller, hit up Instagram with a post regarding his mental health. In it, he called out his father, Master P, for a myriad of things, sparking up a lengthy public back and forth between the two on social media. Romeo revealed many personal feelings he holds towards Master P as it pertains to their behind-the-scenes family life, as well as his current financial situation. In the form of a poem titled "The Tree of Trauma," Romeo aired out his grievances toward the media, claimed that his mother and siblings have suffered as a result of the limelight and placed the primary blame on his father, Master P. Take a listen and take a look at this. In a scathing clapback, Romeo accused Master P of never paying any earnings from the family's Rap Snacks brand, claiming to have blindly supported the company for 15 plus years for a payoff that didn't come. So there's a lot of layers to this right here. There's a lot of layers to this. It's the fact that he's challenging his father about their relationship. He's challenging his father about their business dealing. He don't have no money. He's going through a mental health crisis. This is scary, considering all that we know about mental health, depression, and how certain circumstances can play on somebody's mind. What do you make of this, Iman?
First of all, it's disappointing to think that Master P, the entrepreneur, the mogul, the leader, I hold everybody down, no limit soldier, this would even be an issue with his children. Like, we wouldn't have thought. I wouldn't have thought. I think that possibly Romeo and his father may have tried to make amends, or he's tried to make amends with his father. And I think it may have been steps prior to him airing out their dirty laundry on social media. I'm very surprised, considering who's Romeo's father is. Like, you just couldn't have told me this was the issue behind closed doors. And I believe Romeo Miller's sister, I believe she committed suicide. That was brought up on social media as well, because she was kind of going through the same thing as far as financial issues and hardships, and he just wasn't there to help, and just wasn't there being considerate of them and what they're going through. I just couldn't imagine my father being this person to the world, but he's, this shit show behind closed doors with me. Like, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine either. Now, this also, here's the backdrop for this, that this really came out of the fact that Twitch committed suicide. So Romeo felt like, yo, this is the time to air my grievances. Let me talk about my pain and my trauma. So here's a young black man. He fits exactly where we were talking about, Iman. Here's a young black man, high profile. He's going through all of these changes. Now he's having a feud, a very open and public feud with his own father. And he's also talking about being traumatized. Here, I mean, and I hope and pray this never happens, but there are ingredients in this situation that sounds like this young brother could be making some very, very destructive and fatal choices, right?
Yeah.
And I hope that never gets to be the case. I really hope and pray that doesn't be the case. But
yeah,
Master
he just had a baby, I believe.
Say it again.
I believe Romeo just had a kid, or
yeah,
who he's with may be pregnant. So that's another stress to add to it.
Right, absolutely. So there's a Master P did respond saying that he deleted this IG post according to Romeo, being part of a generation that blames their parents for everything. This is what Master P said about his son, that you are a part of a generation that blames their parents for everything. First and foremost, do you feel like that is true? Because Romeo had a privileged quote, I would say, and I'm saying to us, he seemed to have a privileged upbringing.
Yeah. I didn't know Master P responded. Like, this is my first time hearing this. I didn't know that he responded that way.
Yeah, he said it's deleted, but let me just tell y'all something about social media. It ain't deleted
at all. People screenshot so fast.
Once it's out there, folks, videos are downloaded, post a screenshot, nothing is deleted. It's going to come back. Some things will bite you in the ass, folks. But yeah, Pete said this is that he's part of a generation that blames parents for everything and that he won't tolerate disrespect. He says that I'm the one who sets up the family meetings to talk after Tata's death. That meeting was regarding as disrespectful for being transparent. And then there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of back and forth between Master P and Romeo. And Romeo said, I loved you so much that I followed you blindly for 30 years. 30 plus years. We've talked behind closed doors. You aren't the man who you paint to be. And why is it war? Because I refuse to follow your lead. You only want to protect your image, but the image isn't even real. And I don't need anyone to feel sorry for my pops. I'm truly a man of God. If you are really a man of God, then you will prevail in the end, even when I share my truth. This is
that's a lot. First of all, shout out to Romeo.
That's a whole lot.
Express himself like that, to at least be able to admit publicly that he's going through it mentally. Like, shout out to him for being strong enough to even do that. There's nothing weak about that, to be able to come out, and especially being in limelight that he's in. I think, and this goes back to what Chris was saying, these black men aren't engaged, and I'm sure Romeo has probably expressed these things to his father, but his father looked at it as a disrespectful way because he doesn't agree with what he's saying. I think with a lot of adults, when children want to explain something to you or tell you something, it's deemed as talking back. Don't get me wrong. Some things are okay. I said what I say. Let's leave it alone. However, it can't just be because I said so type of thing. It can't be I know what I'm doing. I have the experience. Just shut up and let's keep it moving. Like Romeo said, he follows his father blindly for years, and I'm sure he may have had questions to provide the accurate answer to, and just had him going along with the ride because he didn't want to lose him. Maybe, I don't know. But as far as adults, when it comes to children, even parents with older children, that's your child, but they're also an adult. Don't just dismiss their feelings because you're the parent. I think sometimes parents take that title to the utmost and think maybe they're above being told about themselves. I'm not saying it in a disrespectful way, but if your canvas looks blue, it's blue, baby. You may want it to be yellow, but it's blue. And sometimes parents don't want to hear that coming from their child.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, and we got to take a quick pause, but I feel like this situation, it's so much back and forth that it's going to have to kind of like air out. I think there's so many things that we can, and we might just have to revisit this situation, Iman, because they're feeling like just the airing out your personal grievances on social media. That's a big conversation that folks are chatting about right now. The fact that you have a father and son that seemingly on the outside, Romeo has been, a part of the money-making machine of Master P and all of his enterprises. So it's a lot. It's really a lot. Who to believe? Who's to blame? All of that. It's just, I'm going to just say it like Jay-Z said it. When the family feuds, no one wins. And that's sad. It's sad because I'm sure Master P, and I'm not saying I don't know the man. I don't know the brother. But it's sad. It is sad. If Romeo's allegations are true, sad. But if Master P's allegations are true and saying, look, I provided all of this for you, it's sad, man. It's really, really sad. We got to take a quick pause. When we come back, something for you for Trends, Post, and Doing the Most. Stay with us. It's The Culture on the Black Star Network.
The Bling
hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, we got something for you for Trends, Post, and Doing the Most. Iman, let's talk about your favorite pastor. Look, I had to end the show on a good note. Y'all know the pastor I'm talking about, Mr. Flashy Bling Bling pastor out of Brooklyn, New York. Do we have a picture of this guy? What's this? This is Bishop Lamar Whitehead. Yep. All right, so apparently, folks, y'all remember the pastor that had the quote unquote robbery in his church on camera? Y'all remember that situation? Let me show that video. right? Well, this pastor apparently has been arrested. Federal prosecutors have arrested Bishop Lamar Whitehead, 44 years old, charging him with committing fraud by bilking $90,000 from a member of his congregation under the guise that he would help her buy her first home in the cutthroat New York City housing market. There he is, Bishop Lamar Whitehead. Y'all know him, Mr. Gucci suit. Boy, he looks expensive.
Very.
Here's the thing. He took this woman's money. The woman by the name of Pauline Anderson, he took her money and never used it for the purposes that he said he would use it for. So she sued him, arguing he didn't hold up his end of the bargain. Instead, using her retirement savings to lay a down payment on a home in Jersey for himself. He never ended up buying that home, but Anderson never got back any of her cash. What? Take a look at this, folks. The Bling Bishop. I know. Look, I got a couple of my online culture crew. Hey, Damon, I'm thinking of you. I know, Damon, you are just livid. Damon Blissett is like, these mother, all in the name of Jesus and God.
You ever hear somebody cuss somebody out in such a biblical way?
I'm telling you. You know what? Guess what? Real talk. I'm glad his ass got arrested. I'm glad his ass got arrested. I don't have no. Hey, don't shed no crocodile tears now, bro. You taking $90,000 from somebody's retirement savings? Do you know how long that takes to build up that type of money? And you know, in the name of God, bro.
I was hoping.
I have no tears for you. No tears. No tears. You ain't taking grandma's money and then.
I was hoping he could change the stereotype about these bling pastors not being genuine or not taking advantage of people, but he feeds into the stereotype yet again. But can we say it's a stereotype when we keep getting to these facts, like a lady's retirement fund? And I'm sure he probably painted the story of I'm Jesus sent me to help you conquer this battle of buying a home, and I'm sure he milked it. He milked it. He milked that cow. I'm telling you, he definitely did. And guess what? Like brother Buddha checked in and you said, the Lord giveth and the feds taketh away. Them cars, oh, it's a wrap. Because they're going to get that lady money back some kind of way. Those cars, that Fendi, that Rolexes and all them chains you got.
Jewelry, all of it, gone.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Come on, we can show the picture one more time, Keenan, very quickly. They call him Brooklyn's best dressed pastor.
Why you keep playing with us like that? Put it back. Was it Kelly?
I don't know. Look at it.
Yeah.
Look at this dude. Yeah. I mean, the suit is louder than a concert. You feel what I'm saying? Like, damn.
He got a sash going across too.
I don't know what you're wearing. But you know what, though? It's really sad. And the sad part is that people come to the church and they come to any faith institution looking for salvation, looking for, you know, when they want to be closer to God. And when you got people that just do this, who pimp the system, who pimp the faith, look, man, we all fall short. We all fall short, right? But at the end of the day, if you're falling short and you taking people's money and no, bro.
You're supposed to be a leader for God. Like,
in the name of God, in the name of Jesus, guess what I'm going to do? In the name of Jesus, lock his ass up.
Hallelujah.
Amen. May the church say amen to pastor, to the Bling Bishop. Take it. I don't care. Hey, look, I'm a black man. I don't want to hear none of that. I'm a black man and I'm just trying to get by.
You surpassed getting by. you went way beyond that.
Bro, please.
Yeah. No. It's you done did that. And now that this has happened, I'm starting to think that whole robbery thing, if it was
a farce. All of it was a farce. Everything was.
It probably was for insurance purposes.
Yeah, it was all for It was the robbery. Yeah, all of it stolen.
Insurance.
Bling Bling Pastor, thank you for your time. And for you can exit stage left, sir. Thank you. Iman, thank you so much for checking in. Always good to have you on. I appreciate you. Thank you for opening up, being vulnerable, sharing your part of your family story. And hopefully you got some relief from what the doctor said today. So thank you again for being so good for the culture.
Thank you, sir. I'll see y'all next week.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Folks, that's going to do it for us. I want to thank my dynamic special guest. I want to thank Dr. Sarah Williams. I want to thank Chris Chapman. I want to thank each and every one of you. And I certainly want to thank my team behind the scenes, my man King Keenan, Ariel in my control room. Folks, make sure y'all go to blackstarnetwork.com. Continue to show your support financially and otherwise. Share the content. Follow us on social media at blackstarnetwork.com, at Black Star Network on IG and Twitter. Also, you can follow me at The Real Farajii on IG and Farajii on Twitter. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Have a great afternoon and evening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you. Peace.